Welcome back, grade 6, to Nelson Math, chapter 5, section 3, perimeters of polygons. This is a review from previous grades. We're just going to be doing more work with the linear measurement perimeter with different types of shapes. So I'm just going to remind you of this right here. Here we see a ruler, standard, everyday. This happens to be a metric ruler along the top in centimeters. 1, 2, 3. Those are centimeter measurements. If you zoomed in, you would be able to see these small little lines. There are 10 of them between the 1 and the 2, for example. Those are millimeters. However, this ruler also happens to be imperial. That means it uses inches. And inches uses a lot of fractions. So this distance from the 1 to the 2 and the 2 to the 3 and the 3 to the 4, that's 1 inch in between numbers. And because of the nature of inches, and I said they use fractions, this big line here is half an inch, and this is a quarter of an inch, and this is an eighth of an inch. And from this line to this small line here is a 16th of an inch. So you can see how they use fractions. So, for example, from the 0 all the way from the 4 past to this line here would be 4 3/4 inches. Many different building materials are sold and are measured in inches and feet. However, for today, we are going to be using strictly metric, which is millimeters, centimeters, decimeters, and so on, all the way through. So, we're going to, before we start, we're going to learn how to use, or hopefully just review, how to use this ruler. If we look at this ruler, it might appear to start at 1, but it doesn't. There's actually an invisible 0 here right at the very start of the ruler. It's just not labeled because they're using the natural numbers to label it as opposed to the whole numbers. So there is no 0 labeled because it doesn't fit. Half the 0, if they put it directly into there, half the 0 would be missing. But it is very important to know that the 0 is there. It starts at 0. So when you measure, one of the common mistakes I've seen students make is when they measure, they start measuring at the 1, like that. So they put the beginning at the 1. Well, this is what you're doing when you are counting the number of people. For instance, if you're counting how many people are in line, no one says the first person is 0 and the second person is 1 and the third person is 2. No one does that. The first person is 1, second person is 2, and so on down the line. But when we're measuring the distances, not just the actual item, which makes it a bit different. So if you use this ruler incorrectly and you started at the 1, this would go from 1 to 11, and you might think that this length is 11 centimeters. That would be wrong. It is not 11 centimeters. You would have to start right at the 0, which is the very start of the ruler. Some rulers have a little bit of overlap. They have a little bit of plastic or metal just that hangs over a little bit in case the ruler ever gets broken. Sometimes rulers get dropped or they're used for other purposes and the ends wear off. So you can actually see a 0. Some rulers do have the 0 there because they extend by maybe 2 or 3 millimeters before the 0. So you can start right from where it's labeled 0. This one doesn't have a labeled 0, so you start from the very beginning of the ruler. So we could see that this length here is 10 centimeters. It's 10 centimeters from the 0 to the 10. But let's say that your ruler is broken. It falls, it shatters, and you have to start at the 5, let's say, because that's the closest you could be able to get with a whole number. It still goes from 5 to 15. So using differences, 15 minus 5 is 10. You can still use a broken ruler. There's no problem with that. So this distance right here is 10. And because this is a perfect rectangle, this distance, is also 10. So let's spin this around. And if we measure here, the distance is 4.5. And this distance, we don't have to check, but we will anyway, is also 4.5. So because, let's just move this back to its starting position. This is 10 and 10, that's 20 centimeters. And then 4.5 plus 4.5 is 9. This particular rectangle has an area of 10 centimeters plus 10 centimeters plus 4.5 centimeters plus 4.5 centimeters. So let's add it all together. 10 plus 10 is 20, plus 9 is 29 centimeters. And it's 29 centimeters because it's a linear measurement, which we can measure with a ruler, a straight edge like this. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.